Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into Voice for All. I am your host, Jamila Gamble, and I trust your week has been fantastic. As always, I love hearing from you guys, so if you want to reach me, you can find me on Twitter at MissJamPCCS, Facebook.com/MissJamGamble. On the Jam fan page, you will find resources, you'll find connections, and you will share your story, which I love to read. So, we have a really big topic to talk about. A couple weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that our lovely Canadian government decided that, hey, you know what? Kids over 5 with autism, you're okay. You don't need anything. And that's why I brought Nancy on from Breakthrough Autism, so we could really break down this whole autism doesn't end at 5. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, and thank you, Jamila, for having me and bringing awareness to the fact that autism doesn't end at 5.
Yes, apparently people think it does.
I'm really sad to be here today talking about this. I mean, it is devastating for over 3,500 families in Ontario that are going to lose intensive behavioral intervention that they have waited for years. And this will be devastating and have long-term ramifications.
I'm trying to figure out where I want to even start. Let's talk about, very briefly, families who are fighting for their child to get that formal diagnosis. There's some families who wait, I'm told, but then there's others who want to fast track, and they're basically paying, what, $3,000 to get a doctor to say, yes, this is the case?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of layers to the concerns around this decision, and one of them does have to do with diagnosis. So we know, we don't have actual stats in Ontario, but if we look globally and even across Canada, what we do know is that the average age for diagnosis is about 4.5 years old.
Yes.
So this is really concerning because we have a lot of kids who aren't getting diagnosed into that age, and then they're only eligible for life-changing treatment, IBI, until the age of 5. So a lot of kids are going to miss this window to learn skills that will improve the quality of their life.
For people who are tuning in and are absolutely clueless as to what we're talking about when they hear IBI, what is IBI?
So IBI is this incredible way of teaching children with autism. And generally speaking, it involves one-to-one intervention. It's intensive, that's the I in IBI, so intensive behavioral intervention, one-to-one teaching, and a lot of hours per week. So the optimal would be anywhere from 25 to 40 hours a week. Now here's the amazing thing. If kids do get that, we know without a shadow of a doubt, and there's thousands of studies to support this, that they can learn all kinds of incredible skills from communication to decreasing challenging behaviors to self-care skills, independence, that will improve the quality of their life.
As an educator, I'm seeing it myself. You know, I see my students who have IBI during the week, they're coming into school, the skills that they're learning in IBI are being transferred into the classroom environment, and I see the benefit of it. What's also heartbreaking with this big decision is the amount of money that families are forking out. Like, there's families who are remortgaging their homes.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. Early intervention is important. We don't want any kids to wait. Absolutely. That is a very important aspect that the government needs to look at, but it doesn't have to come at the price of older kids. Families know that this works. So whether or not the government is going to give them the money, they're going to try to find ways to get access to the treatment. Unfortunately, that is going to have and has had terrible ramifications on families, mortgaging homes, spending every last penny they have, and we live in Canada. I mean, this doesn't have to happen here.
Right.
And so we're pleading with the government to please, it's not too late to make this right. Let's put our heads together and find better solutions to help all children with autism.
You've had a lot of families calling you. When you even brought it to my attention, you said you had so many families calling you literally in tears. What are they communicating to?
I mean, it's devastating. Families have talked about this as being sort of crushing their child's full potential, crushing their children's futures. They know that this treatment works for their kids, and now they've been told after years of waiting that they're not going to get it. I mean, it's just very hard for us all to wrap our heads around.
So basically, for people watching, there was a wait list, and this wait list was like longer than Santa Claus's wait list of like gifts. Extremely long wait list of families who've been waiting years for their child to receive IBI, and then all of a sudden the government goes, you know what? During Autism Awareness Month at that, the list has been cut. There is no more list. Nothing is left for your child. What options are they providing to families instead?
Well, that's another concern. So they are, there's, like I said, there's lots of layers to this. So they are offering this transition type program called the Enhanced ABA model that the kids will be put into. The concern around that is that it will be minimal hours per week. We don't quite know what that's going to look like, but what we do know is that it's not going to be enough to address the needs of these kids who have been waiting a long time for intensive services.
Right.
That won't happen, I believe, until about 2018. In the meantime, 2017, 2018. In the meantime, these families will be given $8,000. $8,000, which...
What's this money for? Is it like we're sorry or hush money? Like I'm clueless as to what this AGs are.
We're sort of asking that same question ourselves. We're not really clear. The government is saying that it's in order to access some services in the meantime, but again, the reality is these kids need intensive services, and $8,000 is not going to get them very far.
Right.
Maybe 2.5 months of IBI, and
that's
that's
nothing.
it. That's nothing. That's not, these kids need...
That's the child warming up to the therapist.
Child warming up, exactly.
Getting familiar with the programming and what's expected of them. And then the show really begins. 2 months is nothing.
And the thing I want viewers to know, Jamila, is that by the fact that they're doing that and they're moving kids into this program that is sort of diluted and doesn't really fit their needs, we're actually wasting money.
Yes.
It's not effective. It's never been evaluated. It's never been proven to be effective. So why are we spending money on a program that doesn't work when we have a program that does work for these kids?
Things are going well, and families understood that yes, there's a wait list and my child will get off that wait list at some point. Families have not been sitting down nicely for this. They've taken it to Twitter. The hashtag is autism doesn't end at 5. And they've been doing some pretty intensive rallies. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so I've been at some of those, and families are obviously upset, and rightly so, and they will not stop until they get what their children need. And I applaud them for that. And we are standing by them as board certified behavior analysts, experts in the field, hand in hand with them saying, to the government, you have to change this decision. So there's rallies happening. There is a Facebook page called Ontario Autism Coalition. I invite people, if you want to learn more information, go to the Ontario Autism Coalition Facebook page to learn more about this cause.
The other thing I want to highlight is they came up with this new programming. Who did they consult? Who did they speak to about this and say, do you think this will actually work?
So again, another layer to this that's of concern is that there was an expert panel put together, and those individuals certainly have expertise in autism.
Right.
They were medical doctors and psychologists. However, there were no board certified behavior analysts on that panel, nor were there parents at the table, sitting with the government to inform this program. Why that's concerning is because you didn't have the people who actually do the work in IBI, who know the research and behavior analysis at the table, those BCBAs. We need them at the table. We need the parents at the table.
For sure.
Because this is impacting, you know, their children, and who knows better than the parents? I'm sure you would agree. I would even advocate for individuals with autism who've been through the IBI program to be at that table too. So we had some key stakeholders that were missing from that panel to inform the government on next best steps. And what we're asking for is for the government to take a step back, stop, invite these people to the table. It's amazing what things can be done when you bring a bunch of people together who are smart and passionate about a cause. We can make this right.
For parents who might be watching and are obviously affected by this news, what can they do right now to seek support, get information, and get by, essentially?
So the first thing I would say is definitely go to that Ontario Autism Coalition page, because families are providing each other with support on that page. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is look into board certified behavior analysts in your community and do what you can in the meantime. And I know that's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but those BCBAs, they can help you. They can figure out ways and teach you strategies, even empower you, work with you, get some people in there with whatever you can do to teach your children skills in the meantime. And don't stop advocating. We've got to get the government to make this right. It is so important.
Guys, this really is an absolutely pressing issue that I don't see being settled overnight. On top of parents raising their voices, and I've seen parents who are unfamiliar with Twitter and Facebook and things like that, but they're jumping on, they're doing what they can. We as a community also need to raise our voice. So whether you are a relative or a neighbor or you work in the school system, you don't have to have a direct connection to care about this. This is our community.
It is. And these kids are going to be going to school in September.
Yes.
The schools are not ready for them.
No, they're not.
So if you think that this is only going to impact children with autism, it's not. It's going to impact every child in school. And these kids are going to grow up and they're going to need a lot of supports, and this will impact our whole community. So this is not just an issue for children with autism, but I think it's really important for us all to raise awareness about this. This does not reflect the values of Canadians.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And again, we don't need to wait for Autism Awareness Month to raise, issues, to raise our concern or our voices. We need support now. So Nancy has given us a wealth of information. All the Facebook links and pages are below if you want to join the pages. Even with me, find me on Twitter at MissJamPCCS. Facebook.com/MissJamGamble. I have families on there who are speaking up, sharing their stories, giving you real information, not things that are fabricated by the government, but actual authentic voices. And speaking of authentic voices, after the break, I actually have a parent who has 2 children who were in IBI. So we'll be getting her take on it as well. Nancy, always a pleasure having you. Thank you guys.
Thank
and
you.
I'll see you after the break. But before we go to the break, Nancy, I wanted to just touch base one more time on Breakthrough Autism. That's another group that families could go to as well.
Absolutely.
Correct?
So we're posting information on our Facebook page as well, on our Twitter as well.
You'll see it all. Everything is there for you. Please reach out. Do not feel that you are alone. Information and groups are out there, including Nancy and myself, and we will help the government realize that autism does not end at 5. Hello and welcome back to A Voice for All. I'm your host, Jamila Gamble. And like we were talking about before the break with Nancy, we are focusing on the whole controversy revolving around the government cutting IBI services for children with autism. For some crazy reason, our Canadian government thinks that autism ends when a child turns 5 and then after that everything is smooth and dandy. Yeah, no, it's not. Nisha, please help us and our viewers understand what you are currently going through as a mom of 2 children on the spectrum.
Well, currently, it's very devastating what we heard. There's no light switch that automatically turns on when a child turns 5 that says, whoop, now I'm not autistic.
Right.
No. It's something that's lifelong, that stays with these children. And what's devastating is that now there's this age gap for all these children that have already waited on that wait list. Some have been waiting on there for 4 years, and now they're being told that they're not going to receive that funding, which is not fair.
And sorry, and speaking of that sum, your daughter, who's 4.5, you were waiting for her to receive IBI services.
That
And then
is right.
we got this lovely gift from the government during Autism Awareness Month saying, hey, by the way, tough luck.
Exactly. It was very shocking. Nothing was said. All of a sudden, the media said that, okay, we're going to announce all this money, which for me, I thought was fantastic because I'm like, you know what, finally, these kids are going to start moving off the wait list, get funding, and get this treatment that they desperately need, only to find out that, oh, you know what? 5-year-olds, no more are we funding you. We're only going to be focusing on the children that are 2 to 4. Well, what about my child that's been waiting on that list? She's been waiting since she was diagnosed at 2 years and 1 week, the earliest you can get a diagnosis. And now it's like, okay, we understand you waited all that time. We're still not going to provide that funding to you. Instead, we're going to put you on another wait list that is going to be for services that they're not even sure what those services are going to be yet.
Right.
But they won't be available until next year. And in the meantime, we'll give you $8,000. Go find your own services.
Have fun with that. People might be watching and going, okay, funding for what? Like, how expensive can IBI possibly be? Let's talk about people who've remortgaged their homes.
That's right. When my son was first diagnosed, the wait list for him would have been 3 years. I didn't want to wait 3 years for my son to get this therapy because I
Right.
know that it works. So the first thing that me and my husband did was we sat down and we said, okay, what can we do to help our child right now? So we refinanced our mortgage and we got him the therapy that he needed at that time.
Can you please tell us how much therapy is?
So you're looking at upwards of 50,000 a year.
50,000.
50,000 a
Five,
year.
50, and then more zeros.
That's right.
Because everyone just has an extra 50 G's in their pockets.
That's right.
Okay, go on.
And that's what we did. We got him the support, and we have seen tremendous changes in him ever since. Now, luckily for us, within our third year rolling around, we were able to get the IBI funding that we needed from him, which is government funded.
Yes.
And the government funding gives you about 10,000 each quarter. So which amounts to about 40,000. And we're still paying 10,000 out
Right.
of our own pocket.
Right.
Which for us is like, you know what? Hey, at least we're not footing the full bill. We're putting in a little bit of it. And then my daughter's diagnosis came up. And for her, I feel bad because now I don't have any more equity left. I've already spent it on my son. What am I going to do for her? So what we took up a second job to make sure that she could get at least a little bit of therapy going along while she's waiting on this wait list. And then last week we received a nice little letter. It's a template. Completely everyone got the
Cut and
same
dry.
letter, pretty much. And it's basically like, you know what? We understand you've been waiting, but we're not going to fund you anymore.
I'm really trying to understand why they made this decision. Like, I'm literally at a loss of words. I'm usually good at talking, and I can't figure out why they felt that this was the best decision for so many families.
I'm not sure either exactly because I've seen IBI work for children above 5 and beyond. I've seen I've seen what children can gain by just getting even a little bit of IBI. IBI, the intensive form of ABA. So when you're talking about being able to grasp social skills, being able to read, being able to write, gaining fine motor, like it's a complete package that is in IBI. And I have seen my son, who was always a strong reader, but now he's able to express socially what he wants to do, whereas before he couldn't.
That's what I wanted to ask you. So let's help people make an actual real-time connection. What was your son before IBI?
Before IBI, he was nonverbal. He would have tantrums all the time. He wasn't potty trained, so we would have to constantly buy diapers for him. He could not feed himself. He could not properly regulate his own sleep. So there were a lot of challenges that we were going through. As many parents with autistic children understand that it's not just one area that they need to concentrate on.
Right.
It goes through all aspects of it. And I have to say that the team that worked with my son did a brilliant job.
Good.
With now, he just looks like a little quirky little child.
And you've seen that progress, right?
I
You've
have.
seen how he's changed. And I want to talk about the rallies. You've been going to these rallies. What have you been seeing and experiencing?
I'm experiencing a lot of anger and frustration, and the majority of it is because there's no clear answers. Everyone is just skating around. The main question is like, why at 5 are you cutting these kids off?
Right.
What is the next step for these kids? If you're going to cut them off, what are the next services? And they cannot provide answers
They're not
for
even
that.
coming up with a solid game plan.
No, not at all. And that's where most of the parents are frustrated and angry.
And understandably so. And again, I said before the break, this is not just an issue for families only with children with autism. This is a community issue. This is clearly an injustice. When you're telling a child, hey, I know you have like potential in the future, but you know what? We don't want to see you to that potential.
Exactly.
We want to cut that potential. When I was booking you on the show, we were talking about a very, to me, it's a big issue that I want to bring up. When I was looking on Twitter and on certain forums, I'm only seeing certain children from certain demographics being represented in the rallies or families coming forward. And you and I both reached that conclusion that a lot of families from certain backgrounds, they don't understand, one, what autism is, and two, the importance of them coming out and speaking out and letting other families who are from different ethnic backgrounds why it's important for them to raise their voice.
I think the main reason why that happens is that a lot of these cultures believe that children that are not typical developing children, oh, there's something wrong with them, or they're afraid of what their family members are going to think, or what the public is going to think. And you should never think like that. Each child is different in their own way. And I think it's very important that you start focusing on what the child wants and what the child needs versus what someone else might say.
Yes.
Like a lot of these parents, you see, they go out to shopping malls even with their children. The child will have a tantrum and then they'll just get embarrassed and leave. But you shouldn't do that.
No.
You shouldn't worry about what other people think, because you should be worrying about comforting your child at that moment.
It's a learning experience.
Exactly. And you know what? It brings awareness to other people that, you know what, maybe this child may need extra space. Like, there's always going to be that person that says, oh my God, this person is torturing the child.
No doubt.
But you know what? You can't be afraid to speak out and say, you know what? My child just needs a little bit of space. Can you back off?
Absolutely. Perfectly said. With 2 minutes left, I want to give you 10, 15, no, 10, I have to control this. If you could say something to the Canadian government right now about what their decision is doing to you, what would you say?
I would say that what they're doing is very unjust, and it's without cause. There's no light switch that turns on at 5 or turns off at 5. You need to reconsider your actions. And that's all I can say.
And to parents out there who are also as frustrated as you are?
They need to speak out. They need to speak out. They need to understand that by backing down or being afraid of what people are going to say, it's not going to change anything for your child. You need to have that voice, because your child may or may not have that voice of their own. So you need to speak out. You need to go on Twitter. You need to go on social media and get your voice heard. Not for yourself, for your child.
And I appreciate you even coming on the show. I know you're not someone who's on TV regularly, but you're doing this for your child and your children, and I applaud you for coming on and being that voice of strength for other parents out there. If you are watching, please understand that you are not alone. A Voice for All stands with you. There's parents like Nisha who stand with you. There's community groups who have no direct connection to someone with autism, and they are also standing with us as well. Please, if you're seeing information out there, if you're seeing parents who are out in the community who require that extra, pat on the back or support, help. Don't just stand by, right? IBI works. This is not like some behavior voodoo. Like, it actually works. I work with students, and I've seen the benefit of IBI, and I hate to say it, but I'm disgusted to see what our Canadian government is doing to our future children. They have potential. Their potential does not end at 5, and it doesn't just start at 5. They have a life that's ahead of them, and I thank you, Nisha, for coming on. Your kids are out there. They are proud of you. They are cheering for you, and we are so grateful for all the community groups and the rallies that are happening. Do not let your voices be silent. They need to hear you. We will not be done with this topic on A Voice for All. We're going to be covering this more. Find me on Twitter, find me on Facebook. You'll be seeing more families that I'm sharing their stories, and maybe you can connect with them as well for strength. I will catch you guys next week, and don't forget, autism does not end at 5.